to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Let me start with some macro thoughts. Holger, who's on holiday in Italy, according to his Twitter feed, is still tweeting, and he tweeted this: People's Bank of China has increased the balance sheet by almost 700% since 2005. Even the Fed looks like a bunch of amateurs. And then, of course, we've had this devaluation, which is roiling the markets. And today we've had a different kind of response, but we'll get to that in a moment. Home thoughts. It's World Elephant Day today. And I like this quote from Daphne Sheldrick. Animals are indeed more ancient, more complex, and in many ways more sophisticated than us. They are more perfect because they remain within nature's fearful symmetry, just as nature intended. They should be respected and revered, but perhaps none more so than the elephant, the world's most emotionally human land animal. Let me put up that photograph I love that I took in the Amboseli in September 2013. You can see this elephant from the back. You can see that it's a huge animal. The extraordinary thing is, I put the window down. You couldn't hear them because they're like ballet dancers when they walk. I took this photo yesterday evening of the evening over Nairobi. Let me put that up. Peter Martell, Urban Jungle, Kenya Lion, and the Nairobi Skyline. That is for AFP photo. And finally, another one of lions in the Masai Mara that I liked. Felix Baumgartner of Red Bull, of course, is a wonderful character, isn't he, with his jumps from space. And I'll put up one last photograph, and that's of him. Political reflections. Russia, NATO drills, fan tensions as Europe on edge. Intensified military exercises by Russia and NATO are fueling tensions in Europe that have already been heightened by the conflict in Ukraine, a research group said. While Russia and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization call the drills defensive, they may treat each other's actions as provocative and deliberate aggravation, worsening mistrust, according to a report Wednesday by the London-based European Leadership Network. The two sides are ready in case of confrontation. Even so, the changed profile of exercises is a fact, and it does play a role in sustaining the current climate of tensions in Europe. And I think I can't agree with that more. But let me conclude by saying, I think President Obama has turned out to be an oil warfare specialist and wrestled the price of crude below $50. And with that, I said this in January, he's effected a choke hold on Vladimir Putin. National Post tweeted in November, awkward is the new normal, and the body language between the two of them is really not very good, is it? And the geopolitical grandmaster Vladimir Putin did not see the oil warfare specialist coming. I think that's the euro has popped over 111. It is now trading 111.13. Dollar index 97.13, but it's probably lower. Japanese yen has had a big move lower, 124.47. Swissy, when I looked last, was at 0.9858. Pound 155.90, Aussie 0.7299, and that's come back a lot during the day. India rupee 64.825, South Korean won was at 1194.92 this morning. Rial 347.31. Moody's downgrade of Brazil to Baa3 from Baa2, one notch above junk. Lots of pressures continuing to build. Egyptian pound 782.71, and the South African rand, it must have rallied, but when I looked early in the morning, 1287.44. Let me put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. I still believe we're going to 110, but curious activity today in the foreign exchange markets. And I am concerned that the Chinese, ahead of further devaluation of their currency, might be looking to put more money to work in other currencies, as it were. Euro dollar, we're back above 111, 111.17. I still think we're going to parity, but this is quite a strong response from the euro. And dollar yen currently trading 124.44. My target is actually 135, and I'll put up a chart of that. Gold 11.20 now, and I think this counter trend rally could go up to 11.50. But it is a counter trend rally. It'll probably drag up oil in the short term, but the meltdown is coming, as I wrote over the weekend. I think it will remain in free fall, and the end is nigh for the oil-based rentier economies. I think President Obama has seriously scored the equivalent of a hat-trick at the World Cup in how he has advanced the US national interest by using the price of oil as a geopolitical spear to put pressure on Russia, Venezuela, so many. I said over the weekend, oil-based economies are going to contract. Currencies which have already collapsed are going to be routed, and Greek-style austerity will be the order of the day. The meltdown is coming. And then I went to Kapuscinski. I said the revolution is only just beginning, and then quoted Kapuscinski, who said if the crowd disperses, goes home, does not reassemble, we say the revolution is over. And I'm saying it hasn't started. Crude oil, a little bit of a bounce going on here, up on the day. I'll put up a 3-month chart. Iran increased output by 32,300 barrels a day in July to 2.86 million a day, which is the highest since June 2012. I like this photograph. If any place shows how the UWS has evolved, it's Red Farm. Pictured the restaurant's Pac-Man dumplings, which sounds a rather good title, doesn't it? Just going back to something I wrote in June about the sub-Saharan African currency bloodbath, and that continues. There's a big debate on Twitter, which I'll get to. Well, what it was about is that Rwandan lawmakers found only 10 people in nationwide consultations who opposed possible constitutional changes to allow President Paul Kagame a third term in power, a report said on Tuesday. Over 3.7 million people, over 60% of voters signed the petition, and that triggered a hashtag on more on Kenya. Hashtag someone tell Kagame trends in Kenya as Paul Kagame responds to third term criticism from a Kenyan. And in this, President Kagame took on a Kenyan citizen on Twitter after his third term ambitions were questioned. I really hope, sir, this is the tweet from Kenya, you will not ruin your legacy by being president for life. And President Kagame says, worry more about your own legacy if you've got any at all to think about. And I concluded on that point by, if President Kagame was in charge of sub-Saharan Africa, GDP would be at 10%. Angola's latest crackdown, first the book club, now members' mothers. In June, the Daily Maverick reported on the arrest of 15 young activists in Luanda. Their crime was to participate in a book club. It was an edgy political book club. Their first text was Gene Sharp's seminal From Dictatorship to Democracy, a conceptual framework for liberation, which outlined strategies of non-violent resistance to authoritarian regimes. But it was just a book club nonetheless. The students were eventually charged with planning an attempted coup. These charges were revealing. If a book club is really an existential threat to the Dos Santos regime, then it must be a lot weaker than we thought. At the time we concluded, as much as it will try, the state can't intimidate its way into legitimacy forever. At some point, the number of people who must be repressed for the system to remain intact will outnumber the number of people who think they benefit from that system, and then the system must collapse. With an economic crisis looming, that point may be closer than anyone thinks, and I think that's a very valid point. In this context, news of another vicious crackdown by state security on a peaceful protest in Luanda comes as no surprise. As always, details of what happened come from investigative journalist Rafael Marquez, one of a tiny handful of independent, reliable sources of news from Angola. On Saturday, activists organized a demonstration to demand the release of 15 detainees. It was a small demonstration, a little more than 50 people. Participating were the mothers of some of these detainees, although neither their status nor their age would protect them. Either way, once again, the regime's paranoid response has revealed its frailty as it is spooked by a few mothers protesting in the street. Then it must be a lot weaker than we thought, and I think that's absolutely spot on. Over the weekend I said the end is nigh for crude oil and oil producers from Caracas to Luanda, from Riyadh to Abuja, and I said also the revolution is only just beginning, and I think the paranoid response is informed by that awareness. Nuria Afonso tweeted Bengo, Angola, and it looked mighty attractive, so I put up that photograph. And then Cora Broadcast tweeted a photograph of President Dos Santos sitting in his very red velvet chair that he likes, it seems. Congo President sidelines cabinet opponents to proposed third-term bid, would join Club of Five if he wins. This is the other Congo, not the DRC. South Africa isn't all doom and gloom, says President Zuma. Says South Africa is dealing with the fallout of a weak global economy, and suggestions that the country is in crisis are unfounded. I think the globe is in a crisis since 2008, he said. I wouldn't say in South Africa it's doom and gloom. We think we are doing very well. However, there are massive job cuts coming out there because of the fall in the price of commodities. South African all share up 4.92% year to date. The dollar rand, I'll put up a 6-month chart. My target remains 14. Egyptian stock market is down 9.44% in 2015. The Nigerian all share, where again I think that end is nigh applies to, is down 9.775% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 4.11% year to date. Co-op Bank has reported first half profit after tax rallied 32.34%. Total assets up 21.9%. Loans and advances up 23.57%. Operating expenses down 4.04%. First half profit before tax up 29.56%. So seriously strong numbers, really sparkling, and holding their costs down was also a commendable outcome. And I think those results will be well received. CFC Stanbic, however, reported first half profit after tax declined 41.62%. They've still got intangible assets, goodwill of 9.347 billion on the balance sheet. Loans and advances grew up to 120.5 billion from 97.48 billion. Notwithstanding a 28.7% expansion in total assets, total income has declined 16.65%. And I think this is really all about South Sudan creeping in. Kenya Reinsurance reported profit after tax up 20.32%. EPS up 25.73%. Strong numbers. Very cheap stock on a PE basis, I must admit. Looking to open a subsidiary in Lusaka. Kakuzi reported first half profit after tax down 11.29%. Reduced profit has been due mainly to the later than normal start of our avocado season. Tea and macadamia operations have both performed better than in the first half of 2014. Remains a value proposition on a net asset value basis. Earnings always exhibit a powerful second half skew. Kenya shilling 100.951. Nairobi all share has rallied 6.233% since August 5. It remains down 4.899% year to date. NAC 20 has rallied 4.688% since August 5. Remains 11.6% lower year to date. If you want to track the stock market, just register on rich.co.ke, get a password, go to Rich Live. It's all free, and you can follow things in real time. Once again, thank you for stopping by.